Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are joining from, and welcome to this session. This session about how to get you started in your preparation for the Microsoft Azure Architect learning path or role. It's presented to you by Give Me Cloud Talks with this Global Azure 2024 initiative. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here to help you to upskill you in a way that you can become uh, doing the work of your dream. If you want to become an Azure architect and you want to get started on this journey, this is the session for you. So before kicking it off, this session, I want to say thank you for the organizers, especially the Global Azure and Dwayne Notwick for accepting my session. And I want to thank all the viewers who are going to spend these next 30 to 45 minutes on this session to get up to speed to understand how you can become a Azure Architect and what type of prerequisites you need to have in place, and if you and how to build them, right? So we are not, nobody is coming with those skills right away. We have to get new knowledge and kind of get into that mindset of the journey of the learning in order to become proficient in a position that we want to do in the future. You might be, for example, a uh, system engineer, you can be a developer, you can be doing some other technical work in the cloud space or in the IT, but you want to move into the cloud, you want to become an Azure Cloud Architect in one day. If that's what you are trying to do, then this session will help you with that. And by the end of this session, you'll be well informed on how to start your cloud learning journey and build toward the desired goal of becoming the cloud architect. And I will share many learning materials and the resources and how to approach the AZ305 exam preparation in order to fulfill that desire. And hopefully you can, by the end of this year or the next couple of months, you can upskill yourself and become an Azure architect. And you can sit down and pass the exam in order to move forward with that. So, hello, by the way, my name is Elhan. I'm a cloud architect and director at the company called T-Rex Solutions LLC. I am a Microsoft Azure MVP, and 18 plus years I was doing this training as an MCT, Microsoft Certified Trainer, and I have been involved in helping the customers and my students with some understanding and building cloud systems, and as well as understanding the enterprise healthcare systems, healthcare data, and API standards. In addition to that, I want to mention that I have this honor to become a Microsoft Certified Regional Lead for the US for 2024. And I'm also trying to help the new starter MCTs and overall MCT community to better serve our customers, to better serve the students that we are trying to serve and upskill them and give them the best of the understanding of technology that Microsoft Azure or any other Microsoft stack is trying to deliver to the customers. That said, I'm not going to stay too much here. There are social handles there. You can reach me at Twitter or Twitter X account, as you see there. I'm also very active on the LinkedIn, and you are welcome to check out the, my blog post where I'm from time to time I'm trying to blog about something that might be useful for the overall community called Cloud Marathoners. I'm part of it. If you check my LinkedIn profile, you will see that you can join a Microsoft Learn Room, where with another Microsoft MVP, Martin Dimovsky, we are trying to help the people to get up to speed, come to the IT, and overall turn their career from just IT desktop support into next level, which is the DevSecOps, and become and hopefully learn that and be pioneer in AI apps, in bringing the AI into your day-to-day operations. All right, that's enough about myself. If you happen to watching this session later on the YouTube channel, please type a comment about your name. Put your name in the comments. Let me know where are you joining from, and of course, put any questions that you may have. I'll be happy to address them, and you can also directly reach me on LinkedIn. Um, all right, that's it. Let's kickstart and see what we are going to cover today in order to basically empower you to start your Microsoft Azure Architect journey by getting into those, mindset where you can get started to learn bits of information that will help you to achieve your goal and hopefully pass that exam. So to do that, first we are going to look where you can start your architect journey, meaning that what it takes to become a Microsoft Azure architect in terms of learning and skilling. Then we'll look into certain changes that happen in the beginning of 2024, and then after that we will unveil a Pandora box, so to speak, of a good learning resources. They are mostly community built, free of charge, so that you can freely use. And finally, I have a Q&A session. So if there is any pressing question that come in your mind, please feel free to bring that during our session. So that said, let's continue here and let's look at the certification journey. If you want to get AZ305 certification, we see a nice graphic here that provides a comprehensive map. As you see, there's some starting points on this journey, and that journey starts with the acquiring an Azure Administration Associate Cert because that's a prerequisite. So in order to get the credentials of Microsoft Azure Solutions Architect Expert. So I'm not going to talk about AZ-104 Azure Administration on this session, but you are free to check some other videos to get up to speed with that. But I would just mention that this exam comes with the name AZ-104, so you may want to just type that in your browser and get the details. So next step here is AZ-305, which is the exam where you are going to be tested against your architect knowledge of Azure, Microsoft Azure platform and its services. Before attending that exam, there are some, desired experience that you want to get along the way. Like you need to get some good, strong administration knowledge of Azure environment. It would be very desirable if you get some experience of experience and knowledge of managing IT operations, and as well as some experience either in Azure development or also in DevOps. And when we say DevOps is about, it's a big term, so to speak. It's about continuous uh, innovation, continuous build, continuous integration, and making sure that the systems are integrated well enough for your organization to bring value each time you are trying to do something new for your customers. Next, in this journey, as you see, in order to get service AZ305, there's a self-study resource and guides that I'm going to cover. And then once you basically already acquire your Azure Administrator credentials, and then you went after the exam of AZ305, then you would be granted a Azure Solutions Architect Expert credentials, which is uh, going to be the, so to speak, pinnacle of your learning journey where you where you get that credentials. However, once you get that certification, it doesn't mean it's end of the journey. No, it means that the journey of helping to your customers, the journey of getting more experience and more real world, so to speak, scenarios that you want to tackle for your customers. That's where the most critical part will start. However, to equip you, to get you ready for that moment, that's why we want to study. That's why we want to make sure we cover the services and their capabilities before we are tackling the hard problems for our customers. So again, this training is going to help you to build the skills, but you have to practice along the way to get some muscle memory in order to be helpful to your customers and to the projects where you are involved. So that said, a part of the this preparation, you can also use some video. There is some LinkedIn videos that I'm going to share about that. If you have a LinkedIn subscription, you can also use them free of charge. So that said, let's look at some exam objectives of Microsoft exam called AZ305, Designing Microsoft Azure Infrastructure Solutions, and see what are the categories that you need to get up to speed with. So first of all, there are four categories that you see here on the main screen, and it consists of the first part, which is designing identity, governance, and monitoring solutions. Then you have the part where you deal with storage solutions. And then we have business continuity solutions, which covers more of a disaster recovery, backups. And then finally, we have designing infrastructure solution, which is the biggest part. That's the group number 4 that you need to get up to speed about uh, critical components of the infrastructure that you are building for your customer in Azure environment. That said, let's look into between these four groups. Let's look into the change that happened over the last year in Microsoft Azure exam objectives. So there were a couple of changes. First one, there was a rebranded name from Microsoft Azure AD into Microsoft Entra. So whenever you hear about Microsoft Entra, that's the name that you need to associate with Microsoft Azure AD, which was prior name. Then, of course, there are certain services are deprecated. One of them is Azure Blueprints. If you were using Azure Blueprints or your customer has, the recommendation is to migrate your blueprint definitions and assignments to template specs or to deployment stacks. This is the new set of services that are replacing it. And with and as you know, the Azure Blueprints are deprecating starting from July 2026. So you have enough time to do that migration, but be mindful about that. Next, there was some updates on Azure Cosmos DB for Postgres. It comes as a fully managed cloud-native distributed SQL database for transactional applications. So it comes with a number of new features that are part of the exam. In addition to that, as you know, there was updates into the Azure DDoS protection tiers. Now you have two tiers of protection. One is network protection, which is covering up to 100 IP addresses right from the beginning. And then you have a smaller SKU, which is per IP protection, which is, as the name dictates, is going to provide you for every public IP address that you enable for DDoS protection, you would have to, enable that service. So, and another big thing was the updates on the Azure workbooks that provide flexible canvas for data analysis and the creation of rich visual reports with Azure Portal. All right. That said, let's look into first exam domain objective here. The first one, if you remember, it was all about designing identity, governance, and monitoring solutions. It comes with three sub parts that you see here on the screen. And when you designing any solution in any cloud, the identity is number one that you need to consider, right? You need to know what type of authentication, authorization mechanism or the ways you are going to offer, what are the customer requirements, how you want to log, how you want to enable the logging solution and monitoring for your applications, and as well as what type of controls you want to have in place in terms of guardrails and permissions that developers or system users need to have in place to do their job. So those type of things are covered in this first part. And as an example here, we can, have a look into a monitoring solution that you see here on the diagram. And As you know, Azure Monitoring is the main monitoring platform in Microsoft Azure. It comes with metrics, as you see here. It comes with metrics. It comes with logs. It comes with traces and change that you wanna basically get those things from the system. And when we say system, we talk about data sources from where we can get them. We may have multiple data sources, including the Azure platform itself. It can be the infrastructure, applications, or any other custom sources of data from where you want to gather those monitoring uh, data. And then the Azure Monitor itself is built on top of Log Analytics, and the log analytics is a technology that powers this observability of the platform that we are talking about. And once we have this, Azure Monitor services integrated and we are getting this information, then you can look into ways how you can provide value out of it by creating visualizations, by looking into some insights, by responding to the anomalies, and anything that's you want to automate within your application. Next here we have a second group, second domain exam objective, which is covering basically the data storage solutions, which can be relational, non-relational database solutions. You may also have some semi-structured data and unstructured data that you have to deal in your system, and as well as how to integrate those data to have a meaningful solution for your customers. And if you want to have a closer look at the storage solutions, uh, and if you have been doing some IT work for a while, then you know that relational data usually stands for certain data services or databases where you have some predefined structure, you have some type of schema, like, for example, Microsoft SQL or Oracle databases, where you rely on the tables, you rely on the, you know, foreign keys, primary keys, and stuff like that. And you properly define the tables with rows, columns, keys, and data types. And then you have non-relational data, right? So when we speak about non-relational data, everything, kind of, if it's not relational, it falls apart. It's basically becomes a non-relational. And in this case, we are talking about semi-structured data and unstructured data. Any media file, pictures, videos, or uncategorized data, you can put them as unstructured data. But anything that you can, if it is, there's certain type of structure in your data, like, for example, JSON declared data, right? So when you have a JSON, as you know, most of the modern web applications, they use JSON as a data exchange mechanism between, forms, between the different applications. Then you have certain structure into those documents. It can be, again, a JSON document, it can be XML, or it can be even YAML, so that you have certain structures that you can rely on. And usually there is non-relational databases such as, for example, MongoDB, or it can be Azure Cosmos DB and other databases that can accommodate this semi-structured data in a way that your application is can provide reliability, resiliency, and fast response whenever high availability is required for the solution. That said, it might be sometimes not so forward or not so clear how to choose between relational data and non-relational data, but there is a good diagram that actually illustrates that you are seeing now. So there's some decision tree that you can go through when you are trying to decide, um, are you going to use relational data product or services for your solution that customer wants, or you have to rely on non-relational data solutions. And you would see that here in this schema, depending where you put your data and what type of requirements you can have different ways how you can store relational data and use different type of services. Um, and just as an example, let's say if your database is actually using some components of operating system, then you have to install a custom virtual machine, and then in that custom virtual machine you can deploy that, relational data and work with that. If you can have if you don't have that relationship between operating system and the database engine, then you may look into some managed services. Like you can look into uh, based on the data type, you can look into Azure Cosmos DB solutions, or you may look into more traditional way of hosting your relational data solution in SQL Server on Azure virtual machines, or it can be also hosted as a managed service Azure SQL database, and as well as if it is a third-party product, meaning that if it's a MySQL database, it can be PostgreSQL database, then you may look into a managed solutions, how to bring more value to your customers. Okay, I hope that makes good sense here. Next, we have part number 3. And here we are talking about business continuity and disaster recovery. Excuse me, which talks more about backups and high availability that you can provide to your customers in the solution. And in order to understand this from high level, you can also look into some disaster recovery options that could be offered to your customers within the Microsoft Azure environment. And as you see from this diagram, there's different options. I'll just call out here for Microsoft Azure Backup Service, which is also called with MABS. With this MABS or Microsoft Azure Backup Services, you can get enhanced backup capabilities to the product, uh, to capabilities to protect your virtual machines, files and folders, and workloads that are relying on them. And there's a version 4 update that rolled up as part of this new set of enhancements that comes with critical features and some bug fixes that you can learn more about that. I'm going to put the link in the description of this session in the channel if you are watching it later on. But this is very critical capability. But in addition to that, you can use traditional ways of doing your disaster recovery, like using the Azure Site Recovery, Azure Backups, and as well as the virtual machine snapshots. The last exam objective here is a group 4, which is the one of the biggest portion of the exam. Namely, it's about designing infrastructure solutions. And as you see, we have 4 sub elements to this exam objective for this measure skill. We have designing a compute solution, designing application architecture, considering migration solutions, and understanding and designing the network solutions. So this is one of the biggest portion of the exam is dedicated to this exam objective. And in order to get up to speed and get some understanding, let's look at the next diagram, which actually provide us some options when we are trying to choose between compute services that we want to offer to our customers. And this is a decision tree that you see here on the screen, where in the beginning, when you start offering the compute solutions, and when we talk about compute solution, it's all about, uh, providing some service that's going to do some heavy lifting, so to speak. It's going to do some computations, can be mostly it's all about processing the data, of course, and then have a compute power to do that. And if when you are trying to choose a compute service for your customer, if you have to make a decision, can you migrate or build a new one? That's where you start usually your conversation. And then based on this, let's say if migration is an option that customer wants to follow, then you may look into lift and shift type of migration, and then follow the path. If there's a way that you can use some managed service, and You don't need to migrate as is the systems into the cloud for the compute services. Then you can look at options where you may go through is it a high power compute workload that you are trying to migrate, or is it about microservices architecture that needs to be migrated, or maybe you are doing some event driven workload, uh, you know, workload migration into the Azure. And based on those, questions and options, you may choose a managed service. In addition to that, I want to mention that in one of the sessions, I was asked about a new service called Azure App Service Containers. That's also one of the options when you are migrating. And if your app is compatible to run within Azure App Services, you can run them as a container, which will minimize the migration need and give you a fully fledged managed solution for your customers, and it will keep them happy. That said, okay, there's a lot of information, but where we should start learning about the you know references that you need to be aware about, right? So there are a number of references, and some of them are listed here, and I'm going to provide this presentation so you can click on each link and get up to speed with information that you want to learn. First, I'm going to switch here the screens just to show you on a browser where you can get started. So where I am now, I'm in the GitHub repo called, you can always come to this GitHub repo and plug into more sources. Once you are here, what I would recommend is, just this is the repo where you need to get into. And then once you are there, just click on repositories. And here under repositories, you would be able to see awesome Azure architecture. So what it is, it's a good collection of the resources that you want to get up to speed when you are trying to get the latest information about Azure architecture and the resources as an architect in order to be effective in your role. And if you go and dive into that link, you will see that it is built with a good friend of mine that I also contribute to this repo called Luke Murray. He's also a Microsoft MVP. And you would find a list of official, unofficial resources that you can get started with. This is a good resource always to check before you start. Next, we have this Microsoft Learn uh, courses and the modules that are provided. Of course, so coming as a free of charge from Microsoft to everyone to learn. This course comes with a number of modules. As you see, we have a governance module, we have Azure Compute Solution, data storage solutions. All of these can be next step where you just want to make sure you cover all these modules uh, before trying to practice your skills using the practice test and other resources that I'm going to share. Next here, in addition to that, on Cloud Marathoner, on the cloudmarathoner.com blog post, I also made a series of posts about how to get started with AZ305, which is focusing on Microsoft Azure Architect exam and its references. You will see that it consists of 12 blog posts. I'm in the process of updating some of them as there's always some change in Microsoft Azure. So you are more than welcome to check this one as well. In addition to that, uh, in terms of once you've finished those learning resources and you want to get up to speed with preparing for your exam and you want to have some practice tests, at that time, there's like this nice exam URL that you can use as a practice test. It comes with 50 practice questions that you can get started to your practicing. And that would basically help you to find some gaps in your knowledge and where you want to give some more consideration and maybe review the material before heading for the exam. And finally, if you want to learn by watching or you're more of a person who want to watch the video, at that point there is this LinkedIn learning course called Azure Solution Architect Expert 305. This is one of the courses that one of these 4 courses that you can get on LinkedIn. So I would strongly recommend go and watch these courses. One of these courses have been created by myself. So if you have any comments, reach back to me. I'll be glad to help you in your journey. That said, let's move forward here. This is that videos on LinkedIn that I was just mentioning. So you are welcome to check this out. Again, this is a QCR code that you can use your phone to get the code and look at the URL and get started with the preparations. Finally, whenever you are doing any preparation for the Azure exam, I strongly recommend to practice using your Azure subscription. If you never had your trial Azure subscription, uh, you can use that one, and this is a great benefit. And what you see here is basically a in addition to using your subscription, which comes with the, $100 of credit. Sometimes it's $200, depending from which country you are joining. You can always use those credits, but at the end of the 30-day trial period, what you can do, you can always identify always free services and keep your account alive. You can still do some meaningful work using those always free services, which are 55 plus at the moment, and still get the benefit of Microsoft Azure and keep your learning going. Finally, we have question section here. I'm not sure if you had a chance to put your name already in the chat. If you didn't, this is the time to do that. Just put your name, where you are joining from, and just say hi. And you're more than welcome to join and connect with me on LinkedIn. Just put a message there so I know where you are coming from. And I will be glad to help you in your conquest to become a Microsoft Azure architect and learn it all. Finally, let's look into a short overview of what we covered today, and then we'll keep going. But before the end of that, I'm going to share uh, a next set of resources using the QCR code. So stay tuned for that. So what we covered today, we first started with some diagram where to start our Azure Architect journey, right? So we learned that there's a prerequisite. We need to get Azure administration certification done. But if you want to start with AZ305 first and then and then go back and do your Azure administration, that would work as well. So it's not a breaking change there. You can start with any of them. But in order to get the Azure Architect solution expert credentials, you would have to pass both exams. Then we talked about the change that happened in 2024, specifically on the Azure Architect exam content. After that, we looked into some learning resources. We looked into exam objectives within the Azure AZ305 exam. And finally, there was a window for Q&A. And if you are watching this video, please put your questions in the comments. Okay, finally, this is the place where the promised QCR codes are on display. As you see, you can always check the study guide on Cloud Marathoner. You can look into AZ305 modules and check this awesome Azure Architect GitHub repo, and as well as check the LinkedIn videos that's freely available for everyone. So before moving forward, I also want to open the exam page, AZ305, and kind of share certain things with you. So here in this exam page, once this is not the exam page, AZ305. Let's go this way. AZ305 exam. Okay, so if you navigate to the exam page here, I also want to share certain things that might be helpful for you when you are getting prepared. So that study guide, official study guide, which is List all the resources and plus changes between different exams. If there's, let's say, change introduced later in the year, in maybe end of 2024, you would be able to get that information beforehand. Then there are some preparation exam videos created by Microsoft some time ago. So I would also recommend to review those videos. You may find them helpful as well in your preparation. And finally, there's the exam sandbox that you are more than welcome to go and check as a way to get up to speed with what to expect during the exam day. It's a very good experience to look into those things. And finally, you remember I showed you a practice exam, right? That you can go ahead and try that once you review all the learning modules and you feel ready for the exam day. At that time, I would say just come here under the schedule exam. You would see a link saying take a free practice assessment. That's the assessment that comes with 50 questions. I highly recommend every candidate before hitting the exam button, go and try to give it a try. I mean, basically, test your skills. This is really valuable before heading to the exam. It will give you some confidence and as well as, check your readiness for the exam. Okay, that's it. Let's move along here. Um, And that was the end of this session. Now, thank you for participating and being part of this Global Azure 2024. My name is Elhan. I'm a Microsoft Certified Trainer, and I'm happy to be here to share this knowledge with all of you. Please, let me know what you think about this session. Is there anything else you would like to add? Put in the comments and feel free to reach back to me. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a wonderful experience during this global Azure days here with Gimme Cloud Talks with Dwayne Natwick. And thank you, Dwayne, and everyone who is going to attend and watch these sessions. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hope to hear back from you. Have a great day. Bye for now.